audience here too, sir?
Please do, Abhishek.
Okay. Very good evening to one and all present here, and a hearty welcome to everyone on behalf of the Department of Management Studies, IIT Roorkee. To start with IIT Roorkee, we are the first engineering college in all of the Commonwealth countries and have been minting world-class professionals for the last 175 years. Moving on to the Department of Management Studies, the department was established in 1998 and has been producing industry-ready managers for the last 23 years. Department has kept itself updated with industry standards. It opened its gate for non-engineers in 2018. It also provides dual specialization in fields of finance, marketing, operations, IT, and HR. Professors here are highly specialized and are amongst the best faculties of the nation. Some of them have been chosen amongst the top 2% scientists in their field by Stanford. We have featured in various rankings and have been amongst the top 10 B schools. We have ranked first for parameters of research and professional practice by NIRF. We are also amongst the top only 5 Indian B schools featured in Shanghai rankings. We are ranked 10th nationally by QS World University Rankings and also are AACSB accredited. We don't settle here and are constantly trying to better ourselves, for which we maintain a faculty-student ratio of about 1:3, which is amongst the best in the country. We have also reduced the semester system to an 8-term system. These are some of our esteemed alumni who have achieved great heights in a relatively short span of time. We have alumni working at executive positions at firms like Google, Barclays, and Goldman Sachs. We have hosted over 85 lectures, and these are some of the prominent guests who have hosted at the department in the past time. To give a bird's eye view of the demographics, these are the demographics for the senior batch. The key thing to notice is the shorter batch size to maintain quality students. The batch size is 69 with varying levels of work experience with an average work ex of 27 months. The few certifications that our senior batch has are Lean Six Sigma, CFA, and CFI. The batch consists of people with varied educational backgrounds, consisting of various engineering streams as well as a healthy mix of non-engineers. To move on to our batch size is 74 with varying levels of work experience with an average work ex of 28 months. The few certifications we have are Lean Six Sigma and CFA. The batch 2 consists of people with varied educational backgrounds consisting of various engineering streams as well as a healthy mix of non-engineers. Thank you. That was the brief information about the department and the audience. Now I would like to formally move towards the formal welcome introduction. It's a great privilege to welcome and introduce one of our esteemed alumni, Suresh Perugu sir. Currently, he holds the position of Executive Director at Analog Devices. Further, he is a global executive who leverages world-class experience in effectively leading IT organizations through critical change and dynamic growth. He is also inclined towards relationship building with outstanding communication, team building, mentoring, and interpersonal skills. He holds more than 3 decades of immersive experience and expertise in IT operations, general management, strategic planning startups, business transformation process, and relations governance. His career is full of remarkable achievements, which surely is the result of his hard work and dedication. It's truly a privilege to have such an eminent personality amongst us. I'm sure that students of DOMS IIT Roorkee would learn immensely from today's session. Now, I would like to request Suresh sir to take over from here and guide us through the session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Abhishek. Let me first share the content. Let me know when you see that.
Sure. It's visible, sir.
Okay. All right. let me go into the presentation mode. So you may not see me. I may not be able to see you guys. Oh, I can see you too. Good. Hey, it's really great opportunity for me, and thank you for Department of Management Studies, IIT Roorkee, for reaching out to me to present on this occasion of Avenir. I just came to know what Avenir means. Mayur has sent me the meaning, and I'm really surprised the way we come up with the names. That's wonderful. It's towards the brighter future. I'm not sure which language it is from, but it's a great word because I see the current generation of youngsters, all of you, are the future of not just this country, global citizens, citizenship that you are going to carry with your career, progress, and the accomplishments that you are going to be getting into. Now, when they reached me, I noticed that you are having this as a theme of UCA, but I personally felt it's always good to learn from others' experiences. So, like I mentioned before, I'll tell you why I'm telling this, and I'll give you examples also how I learned. So, typically people read biographies to learn. Why? Because you want to take away some lessons from there. So that's why I put this subject as an accidental success. And let me be very open with you. This is the first time I'm making my presentation on accidental success because I strongly feel my career, where I am today, it's a variety of things I'm going to talk in a little bit. And probably you'll be shocked. How can a civil engineer be somebody in a semiconductor industry, right? It's totally opposite ends. But I was not planning to be there, but I was also fortunate and I was luckily taking the chance that happened in my way. So before I go into that, let me talk about myself because while Abhishek has given a brief history, you can see this is my LinkedIn profile I made, and this is made by a friend of mine. He was doing it, and when I asked him, I was looking for a good picture, and I felt Roorkee should be there, and that's the main building. And when I saw all of you doing that, I had to immediately pick up and put it back as my background. So just to briefly touch base on what you see there, I started my career as a teacher in engineering college. The college that where I studied that you see is SVUCE, Sri Venkateswara University College of Engineering, Tirupati. While working as a faculty in civil engineering, I came to University of Roorkee at that time to pursue my master's in geotechnical engineering. It's a civil engineering department. Then there is a provision for academicians, teachers in India, to go on to complete their PhD in prestigious institutes like universities, Roorkee or another IITs and IISc Bangalore and those places. So I applied for University of Roorkee for my PhD program because pretty much all my professors, they are very good ones and I had a very close connect with them. So one of the professors, when I went for the interview, I went and met him at the home. He said, now my name when I was at Roorkee used to be P. Suresh Babu. You know how the names are in India, right? Only after going to US, it became Suresh Perugu. So he called me and said, Suresh Babu, you did your BTech in Tirupati, MTech in Roorkee. I want you to go do your PhD in either Canada or US and then come back to teaching. I took that as a cue. I came back, applied for research in US, and then moved to US for my PhD. I stayed there for almost 15 years. Not almost, exactly 15 years. Then I came back. In the process, one thing after going to US, not while here I used to help students whatever I can, but once I went to US and started working there, I realized coaching, mentoring is very important for the youngsters. So I took it upon myself to coach and mentor primarily my high school and engineering college students. Then from there on, life got me into multiple ways. I had to leave my PhD and took up a job in IT. And I moved into SAP world. Then I was doing my PhD in Texas A&M University. That's what you see over there. At that time, the company that hired me to do SAP work was in College Station, Texas, where I was pursuing my PhD. So life took me to West Coast, Los Angeles. I never imagined that I'll stay in Los Angeles for anything, but life took me there. So then I worked in, I'm not sure how many of you know, it's called Enterprise Application Integration area. That means when you have any systems in company, system to system conversations happen through that. So I was working in that space. So I lived in the US for 15 years, and then we decided to move back. So in 2007, so before I moved back, after working in a couple of companies, I joined a startup. We were building B2B hubs that was acquired by IBM. So I was fortunate to work for IBM in US. Then when I decided to move back, one of my mentor, he told me, if you are going to India, you need to find a good place, and you should not apply for a job that's there, but somebody should pick you up and say, this is what Suresh is going to do. So he, all through the lecture or presentation, I'm going to talk about a couple of instances where network matters, right? This gentleman, this mentor of mine, he is the one that hired me in the startup. But after 3 months, he left the startup to pursue his future. So with that, what happened is I kept in touch with him for almost 8 years after that, 8 or 9 years. So he knew my family. My younger child was born when we were in the startup. We both were working there. So he knows my wife, he knows my elder daughter, all of them. So we used to exchange notes, emails, phone calls. Every time he comes to, though he was working in East Coast or Switzerland, his family was 60 miles from me. So whenever he comes for either Thanksgiving, Christmas, or any time, we used to meet. It's the same restaurant. It's the same table. We'll order the same food. But that continued, and I kept on updating him what we are doing. So I told him in 2006 December 7th, 2007 January that, Rod, I'm ready to move back. He said, that's what he told me. Whenever you are ready, let me know. So what happened after that is he connected me to a executive vice president in Microsoft. My resume went to a executive vice president in Microsoft. Imagine in these big companies, when somebody from US sends a resume to people in India, that's how I came back to India and started working for Microsoft India in 2007. So after Microsoft, I worked with some startups in Hyderabad for about few years, 4 or 5 years, but it was not panning out well. So I went back to corporate. I worked in a bank. State Street is a bank, investment bank. Probably that's where most of you can look for jobs also. I see that a lot of you are CFA and CFI certified. So that's a good place to start, along with the rest of the people, the banks that you're referring to, either Barclays, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, or any of these things. So I worked there, not on the finance side. So imagine I'm a civil engineer. I worked for a services company called IBM. Then I worked for a product company called Microsoft. Then I moved into an investment bank, right? So the investment bank, my job was whenever we add partners, when we onboard a new investment firm, all the testing will go through my team. That's what I was doing. After 20 months, again, network. I'll talk a lot about network. The State Street job is possible because the person who offered me the job, I taught him in engineering, and he was my junior in high school for 4 years, 4 years junior to me. Then Maxim integrated. Now today, I had to somehow get hold of the guy who made this and ask him to see if we can change that to Maxim Unlock devices. Maxim integrated, which was acquired by Unlock as of this October. So that also what happened one December in 2018. A friend of mine who went to college with me in Texas A&M University pinged me on LinkedIn and asked, "Are you still in Bangalore?" I said, "Yeah, Santosh, I'm still in Bangalore." So he said, "I want to call you." So on Saturday, I picked up the phone and called him. So what he brought to me is, he said, "Hey, look, there is a company called Maxim Integrated. They're looking for an IT center head in Bangalore." He went through the interview process. He was selected, but he could not move from Hyderabad. So he thought about me. in less than a month, I had the job. I joined in March. That's the story. So now I'm in Unlock, which is a semiconductor industry. Again, here, I do not know anything about semiconductors, but I manage their IT, all of it in Bangalore. So that's about me. So pretty much I covered everything. I'll talk about my school a little bit later because that's in one of the slides I want to tell you about it. So why did I choose this topic? I wanted to be, I wanted to see most of the places when I looked in web and all those things, I see the quotes that success is not accidental. But for me, I felt my success is completely accidental. I was at the right place at right time, but late in the hour, not early adopter. So that's why I thought if there is anything that people can learn from my experience, it'll be a good topic to share with you guys. What I'm going to share is when I say accidental success, how did whatever happened in my life help me to become to be where who I am today and where I am today. At the end, I leave it to you. What are the possible takeaways that you can carry with you? Now, when I talk about the why this topic, I think you can see on the right-hand side slide why success was not based on so much on any great intelligence, but on a great common sense. This is a quote by Helen Brown, and I liked it so much. Why? Because I align myself very much to that. I am not a very big intelligent student. So as you can see, I am probably most of you might be from rural background. I grew up in very rural background from almost till not almost till +2. I studied in my regional language. There is a typo, I'll correct it, in Telugu. So when I joined engineering, my first semester, we used to have what is known as a flexible credit system in Tirupati. We were advanced in that stage than IIT Madras. So one of our founder principal, he brought that flexible credit system. So how that works is you have 4 months of a semester. First month, you have a 20 marks exam on the syllabus that was taught in first month. Second month, you will have another 40 marks exam on the first 2 months of the syllabus. That will be 220s. And after that, you can forget about what you learned in that first 2 months. Third month, you'll have an exam at the end of it for 20 marks. And finals, or whatever the second half, fourth month, you have another 220s. So totally, you will get 120 is the whole count, but they take the best of 5 and grade you. So when I wrote my first 20 marks exams, my marks are not anywhere near what anybody can think of. I got 8 marks for 20 in economics. I got, I think, 10 or so in mathematics. And physics, I got, I think, 6 or something for 20. Why? Because I was transitioning from Telugu to English, and it was hard for me to digest. At the same time, I was very transparent in sharing my marks with my father because that started in my school. School used to send their progress reports to my father, so he knows that. So I told him, these are my marks. He encouraged me. He said, don't worry about it. You are learning English now, so it's okay. So all through my education, be it Roorkee, anywhere, I was not a very bright student, but I was surviving. In the sense, I was the middle bencher or whatever you call it. In Roorkee, by the time I joined Roorkee, I was in the teaching. I came from teaching background. And in the first semester, my rank in the class was 8 among 10. So I felt very bad. What the hell I am doing being 8th in the class in 10 people coming from teaching background. So second semester, I put all my effort and I was able to come second at the end of the second semester in the whole 10 people. That's the best I did. And I still have a lot of respect for the first person. I pretty much forgot his name, but I'm pretty sure he's doing somewhere extremely well. He's a very, very smart guy. He's not from Roorkee, but he is either from Moradabad or some other college he came from. So I was never ambitious to chase success. Even today, I strongly believe that my philosophy is I manage today or this week. I don't plan for what I'll be doing next month or month after or 2 years down the road. I don't plan that way. But that helped me. You know why that helped me? Because sometimes when you think too much, you will either make a mistake, or when you don't get that, you may get a disappointment. When you don't have any expectations, it's easy for you to reach where you want to be. The values that I follow are primarily from my high school, where the teachers taught, and my engineering college, where my professors taught us. Of course, a lot of it came from observing people around. And of course, the greatest influences in my life are my parents. My father was a union man, he worked for railways. But one thing I observed from him is he was a union leader for a organization. So in that time, if you get a compensation for a death of a gangman, that means a compassionate ground appointment or a gratuity, people used to take a lot of money. But my dad, whatever the person wants to give, he will write them a receipt, deposit it in the account. And he had a good chairman also. He was secretary and his chairman was a RSS man. So they both did a great job. Those are the values I got. And my mother, she never said no to anybody that comes home. If I remember, if you guys remember, I told that I grew up in rural background. So my father was a station master. We were in a station, and this town was about 2 kilometers distance. So it was the mandal headquarters or mofsal headquarters for people to come and take care of their work. So all the village heads and all those people, they knew my dad. So they come, go to the city, town, get their work done, and they know there'll be food in my house, our house. So they come, my mom will feed, and they'll sleep on the charpai, like one that you get in dabas and all those places, and get up at 4 o'clock and take their train and go. So observing them, I learned what is means giving back, or what it means to be, even if you don't eat, how to feed others, or how to be very integrity maintaining person, that even there is a right before you there are opportunities to be corrupt, how you can stay away from that. All those values that came from there. And of course, my research supervisor, I always cherish him. the I have to tell a story about this. One of my classmate, he is a professor in IISc Bangalore in the same area, geotechnical engineering. And my research supervisor is a fantastic gentleman from Texas A&M University. And he was the International Soil Mechanics and Foundation Engineering president for 2 years and ASC president for last year. I mean, ASC means American Society of Civil Engineers. They meet in many international conferences and all that. So one day I asked my friend, "Hey Shiva, do you meet Brio in?" His name is Brio, my professor's name. So um, I asked him, "Do you meet Brio in all these conferences?" He said, "Yeah, I meet him." Then I said, "Have you ever asked me? I told him that you are my classmate." He said, "No, I never told. I was afraid that you didn't finish your PhD. He might be angry with you." So I told, "Why don't you try it next time and see what the reaction is?" He came back, he met him in a conference, he came back, and this is what he told me. "What have you done? Because when I brought your name, he was so happy. He was talking so much about you. He's not angry at all." So I said, that's how I manage my relation. So that supervisor, he told us one thing when we were doing PhD with him. A good manager, remember this, guys, this is very important because you are going to be in career pretty soon. You may at one point very shortly will become managers. So a manager's role is very important to hire the right person for the job, to define the job you expect out of them. And then the third one is my best and favorite one: get out of their face. You have to get out of there so that they can do their job. That's very important. Of course, many of my managers, either at IBM, the startup that I worked, or the Microsoft, State Street, everywhere, they're all, I learned something or other from them. Is the pace okay? Am I going too fast or too slow?
It's good, sir. It's
Okay. So the next is, how many of you have studied in schools like this, under the tree? Anybody? Raise of hands.
Sir, I have studied in APR JC.
Oh my God.
Yes.
You're from Sagar.
Yes, sir, Sagar.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, but Sagar is not where people teach you under the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So till 7th class, my classes used to be under the trees. I was in a very rural school, Jilla Parishad High School, that's called, and we used to sit under the trees. If you sit under the trees and experience the learning, you will also experience certain things. Sometimes when the class is going on, you may have an occasional visitor dropping from the trees in form of snakes. So we experienced that. But around that time, what happened? This is the first point I'm trying to make in my accidental success theory, because my father is a railway man. He didn't know anything about the schools, but I ended up in a prestigious school. This school, there were 3 schools started by our late Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao Garu when he was education minister in Andhra Pradesh government. So he started 3 schools. One is where I studied. There were 2 in 2 other regions. When it came, the announcement came, one of my father's friend and my elementary school teacher, he went and told my dad, he was making his son write. We were both classmates. So he said, why not Suresh also write with him? My father at that time was, oh, I had to send him too far. He's too young and all these things. But he insisted, you are not sending him today. Let him have a chance. Let him go and write the exam first. So I wrote the exam at Mandal level. Then at district level, when I have to write, my dad took both of us and we both qualified. To make this story short, we both ended up in that school. But what that school has given me is very important. I never planned to be in that school, but I ended up there. And first semester, first time when I went to the school, second batch, I'm from second batch of that school. The school started late for us. Instead of August, they started in December. So when I went in December, our principal, he told all the parents, don't worry, your kid is going to be here only for 1 month or 1 month and sometime. He's going to be back at Harvest Festival in January. And guess what? All the parents went happily home. He never sent us home. He continued the teaching and we were there till summer. So obviously, after you go back from summer, you enjoy with your parents. When you come back to start your 9th class, I wanted to go back. I was homesick, tired, sick. Um, I wrote letters to my dad. I just want to come home. And he was surprised, and he used to share this story with me quite often, is that I wrote a letter today that I want to come home. After 2 days or so, I wrote him a letter, no, 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 I'm okay, kind of thing. But whatever the grit I accidentally got into me at that time and stayed back, that helped me quite a lot. What it taught me is I was under the care of loving teachers and loving principal. He used to take English classes for us, and it's complete Gurukul model. Like till night 9 o'clock, people will be with you to make you study. One thing I have to share here is in 10th class, when I gave my half yearly exam in Hindi, I got 30 marks. 30 is barely pass marks. So my Hindi teacher, his son also did bad. So he'll sit in a chair, one side me, one side his son. He will make us study Hindi. And when I looked at my final marks, I was shocked. I got 80 in Hindi. So that's the kind of loving care that we went through. But at the same time, what I learned from there is, how do we work with others? You are from different regions, 5 districts. Your food is different in a way. Your culture is different in a way, even in 5 districts. The language is different slang-wise, though it's Telugu. We got along pretty well and made very good bondings at that time. And at the same time, we started caring for others. If I am in the room, who are my right, left guys and all those things, will care for them and they care for me. It also taught a lot of integrity for us. More than anything, we call ourselves, since we are from Kodinahalli school, we call ourselves as Kodis. And the Kodis attitude is, you give us any problem, we can get it done. So that's my first story on accidental success, how I ended up in a school that was never destined for me or meant for me. So there are multiple things that happened between then and Roorkee, but I'll get back to Roorkee. So how I got here is I was hired as a lecturer in civil engineering with an undergrad qualification, BTech, and I was given 5 years to pursue my master's and finish it. In the first year, when I finished my first year in college as a faculty, I got admission in Anna University, in not Anna University, something in Chidambaram. I forgot the name of the university. So maybe Anna University campus. But that time, university did not give me permission to go there. So I should have felt bad. Oh my God, I lost my opportunity. But I didn't. Instead, one of my professor was working in National Institute of Hydrology, which is on the campus of Roorkee. IIT probably, I don't know if it's enclosed in the campus or it's outside, but it's in there. So I used to write letters to him saying that, sir, I want to come to university, Roorkee. Is there any opportunity? He sent me the prospectus, the brochure. When I looked through the brochure, by then GATE was implemented. There was one column, one condition that if any GATE scholarships are left out, a faculty like me who is coming there, who has a GATE score, is eligible. Again, remember guys, I was not a topper, GATE topper to ACE and get into Roorkee. I was not that smart. But that's how I got into Roorkee Masters in Geotechnical Engineering. And I stayed in Jawahar for the 1.5 year I did, which is very close to my department. And I'm glad I could find that picture in the internet this week when I was searching. There are more of undergrad Bhavans hostel, these things and Azad Bhavan, but not Jawahar. I could only find one. And what is the significance of Jawahar? If you are there, you know it. Whose hostel is opposite that? Is still Sarojini Bhavan opposite to that? Yes? No?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So anyway, when I was there, we had a great faculty. All of them were like what Abhishek was telling about Department of Management Studies faculty. They were vice chancellors for the same university. They were well recognized UPSC examiners. They were responsible for developing civil engineering codes and all that. So it was a great learning for me at that time. And in the process, we made a very good friends. One of the advantages in any of the institutes like Roorkee or other places is you will not just make friends in your own faculty. We have friends from computer sciences, architecture, and electrical engineering and other places, right? Even mathematics. There are students from mathematics doing PhD there. So we have a lot of those good friends. At this point, I wanted to talk to you about that highlighted words. Your network is your network. People talk about money, but develop your network. It helps you. The reason is the kind of friendships you make or the connections that you make during your master's, undergrad, and below, they go a long way. And when we completed any of those courses, we never had the communication mechanisms like what you have today. I lived through a time when there was no fast calculator. I lived through a time we did not see a computer in our undergrad. I lived through a time when we never knew what email is. The first email I used was when I was in US, not here. Right? But for you, you have a lot of things that we don't know what you will get into in 20 years, 30 years later, but there is a huge transformation that we saw and that we have to adopt. In the whole process, my main success I attribute to all my friends that helped me in my career and giving me right opportunity at that right time. So invest in your network. It's very simple. Any questions or can I move on?
Yes, sir, you can continue, sir.
Okay. So let me talk about the picture first. This is, you can see that on the back it says Texas A&M football team. On the top you see ATM, that's the logo of Texas A&M. And that's near the stadium that I took it in last January. I visited that place after I left College Station, Texas in about probably 2000 or so. After pretty much 20 years, I visited that place. Fortunately, going back to my network concept, one of my junior from engineering college who did PhD from A&M, he continues to work in College Station. There are a couple of other juniors teaching there. So I went to visit him and he took me around to show me around. So I had to briefly touch a story here. So when I went to US, my first destination was not Texas. I went to IIT Chicago, Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago. The reason I ended up there was there was a professor who had very good contacts with most of my geotech professors in Roorkee. So they gave me those connections and I got admission there and I was going there. That gentleman, he had so much funding. Any student that comes and joins, he'll put them into the PhD program. Once you are done with your PhD program, you're off to a good start in engineering. But by the time I reached there, when I got my admission approved, probably maybe in March or February, he was alive. But by the time I went there, he passed out. He passed away because he was identified with some kind of cancer and he passed away. So there was a new head of the department for civil engineering, a Turkish guy. He was real mean professor because they had an ideology or personality clash with the Indian professor. So he started no assistantships for Indians and he started treating Indians bad. And the first advice I got is when I joined there, people told me, get the hell out of here as soon as you can. So I had my application pending at Texas A&M University. There are 4 or 5 of my students who were there. So if you recollect, I finished my engineering, worked in university, came to Roorkee. So I had 2 years gap. And by the time I went to my PhD, it was 7 years after my engineering. So my students who joined there were there. So I called one of them and asked him to pursue the application. He got me the admission. So I went and joined it. That's how I ended up there. So what I learned in A&M, research, what it teaches is how you identify, analyze a problem and solve it. That's what I learned. And my project, the one that was sponsored by Texas Department of Transportation, it was measuring the erosion under the bridge. What that means is when the water flows with a heavy force under a bridge, piers, if you have gone to Ganga Canal, you can feel the water flowing very fast there. And imagine if you don't have a solid lined canal concrete there, and if you have soil, half the soil will be gone. So that how deep it goes when you have a regular riverbed, how deep the foundation should be, that's what we were working on. So the project was a interdisciplinary, hydraulics people were there, geotechnical people were there, and some other teams were there. So it taught us to learn and work with other areas, how you integrate and do all that good stuff. The other thing I had to talk about my professor here is my research supervisor. In those days, now I can make a PowerPoint, just right away present it. In those days, it was not like that. We make a PowerPoint, take it to a university lab, they will make slides out of it. And we bring the slides, show it to my boss, he'll project them and check them, and he will give us minor corrections. And you'll be surprised the kind of minor corrections we were getting. So that's where I learned how to make a presentation clearly. His course, if you take a course from him, his reports, he would expect nothing less than a MTech thesis or a PhD thesis. You have to have the table of contents, you have to have the page numbers, you have to have the title, a brief abstract about it, then introduction, typical reporting fashion, and references at the end. All that you have to give. So that's another thing I learned. With those two, automatically when you get into corporate, when you are writing an email, you know how to structure that email and do that. Worked with the best of the professors at Texas A&M. I worked for, they have an institute called Texas Transportation Research Institute. They used to do a lot of research on materials, intelligent highway systems, and I took a course from a professor who was creating solutions for American government to bury nuclear waste in deep Rocky Mountains. So you cannot get better than that, professor. But at the same time, when you take courses from these kind of professors, it is very difficult to get a right grade. You have to slog, you have to work really hard. I barely made a C or B in that. I definitely didn't make a, I know that. So, and in addition, I also has to take a psychology course, because when you go from India to US, most of the universities, they consider that we do not have enough humanities courses. So they give us these prerequisites. So when I was doing psychology course, the interesting thing is now probably most of you might be good at playing video games and all that. In those days, there were some games, but I was not playing any of them. So I became a sample for them. So the course structure is, if you go help a PhD student to do some of his research work, you'll get 10 points. It's free 10 points. You go spend 4 hours with them, 2 hour slots, you get 10 points, right? 10 out of 10. So I opted for that. The research guy, what he was doing is he was creating a simulation for Air Force pilots on how they navigate the systems. I, being a novice of games, I was doing bad, but that's what they want. How a rookie pilot who doesn't know anything about the systems will do that. And of course, my biggest recommendation for anyone is you have to go and study abroad, not just US. The reason is when you study abroad, it teaches you a lot about how to work in different cultural areas and how you can be successful in your careers. So there also, if you notice, I never planned to be in Texas A&M University. I made an application, but I never expected. My expectation was to go finish my PhD and get a job. When I was in first semester in Chicago, one of my senior, he was finishing his master's in computer sciences from El Paso, University of Texas, El Paso. So he called me and said, Suresh, I think you should switch to computers in IIT itself, and they will give you some prerequisites, do it, and then you'll be better off in US. I remember still, I don't know if he remembers, but I still remember my words to him. And sometimes I feel bad that I did not take it at that time, but I feel that at the same time, I told him at that time, I'm a teacher. I came for my PhD. I cannot leave my PhD and go do something else. So at the same time, at the end, I finally ended up on the same area. All right.
Sir, I had a doubt in the previous slide. May I?
Yes, please.
Sir, you wrote about near perfection in writing. So I wanted to know, how is writing skills so much relevant in a professional life, and how can you develop it?
Good question. So I'll give you my perspective. I may not be giving the right answer or wrong answer, but I'll give you my perspective. What I meant is, I talked about how I used to make the reports, right? So when you make a report, you have to check for typos and everything. Same thing in corporate communication. When you are writing an email, you have to make sure first, whatever the intent that you are trying to convey to others, if you are writing a technical email or whatever it is, put appropriate screenshots, appropriate language. You define the problem in sectors and address each one of them and articulate it. Because most of the times, every answer cannot be spoken verbally with a person. Sometimes you have a trouble understanding also. I'll good point that you made. I'll tell you what I went through. I worked with a Japanese client one time. I don't speak Japanese. They don't speak English. So we had to have one of our employee who happens to be a Japanese woman working in our finance team to help us. So you get some things lost in translation. But we used to work with her to make sure what the intent of the email that we got, and we were able to respond. So that's When I say near perfection, I don't think we'll ever get to the perfection state, especially in your presentations and communication. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir, it definitely does. Thank you.
Thank you. So right side is what the building that I was working out of. There are 3 buildings in Microsoft campus here. I don't know if they got a 4th building because I haven't gone there in last 2 years. If you see the right hand where you see Microsoft, if you just come around that, on the other side, I was sitting on that floor. Luckily, I found that picture to share with you guys. So the best things for me is most of my managers, the people that I was working with, they were US expats. Expats means they come here for a 2-year stint and go back. So, and I was able to change 3 roles. I came into work with a product team. Then I got another SAP team for me. And then I was in the change and release management. So I was there in 3 teams. So what did I learn for my success in any of these places? It's very important when you get into workforce that you have to show empathy to your employees, be it your colleagues, be it your direct subordinates, or whoever it is. Empathy means one of the employee, when I joined Microsoft on September 7th, 2007. So along with me, there were a few others that joined. There was a junior guy that joined along with me. We used to talk in cafeterias and other places. For a month, I missed him. He came back. I asked him, "Where were you? I didn't see you for a month." He said, the first thing he told me is, "Suresh, you won't believe. I came back because I was sick. And the first thing my manager asked me is, what is the work I can pick up?" Instead of asking simply, she didn't even ask me how I am doing, right? He left. He left in less than a month and went off. If you don't show that empathy for people, it's very difficult to retain them. You have to connect when I say connect at a level, you have to maintain your professionalism, but whenever there is something that they need to go through, you have to help them on that. And the friends I made there, even some of them now, they call me for mentoring or coaching, and I talk to them. It also taught me how to be successful in India, because in US, you can question your manager and survive. In India, you cannot. So how do you maintain that balance? You have to be very careful in what you talk to your manager without offending their ego or whatever you call it. So I was hit by a couple of times, so that's why I was able to get better. But that's one thing I learned. So to be successful in my mind with any of these companies, you show respect to your employees and help them grow, because for everybody, they need a path to grow. You have to help them. So that's what I learned. Again, just to step back a little bit, when I was planning to come, I think I talked about it a little bit. Microsoft is dream company at that time for anybody. And guess what? Me and my wife both got jobs in this. I never even planned that I'm going to work for Microsoft, and I ended up there. So I think that's the last story that I have for you guys. Now, I want to touch base on this, and this is the last slide, I believe. I don't know how we are doing on time. I think we are good. We'll have at least 10-15 minutes for questions. I'm not going to talk too much about it. You know what VUCA is, and probably people must have talked to you about. But I'm going to tell you, how do you survive when you have volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity around you? These are the lessons that was taught to me by somebody, so I'm sharing with you. Whenever you see a challenge, somebody throws at a challenge with you, take it as an opportunity. You will excel in that. And this is something that one guy who came from Silicon Valley said, if you have to fail fast, if you are failing, you have to fail fast. In startups, what they say is, if you are surviving for long and if you are not making success, then you are living dead. So, but how do you fail fast? Today, the process is data-based design thinking. That means you collect the data based on that. Design thinking, I don't have to explain, you can read about it. So then you make database decisions. That's what it is. The another thing is trusting each other in team. Think of army. In army, it's very important that each person trusts the other person. Otherwise, they cannot complete a mission. Similarly, in corporate also, we have to trust each other based on their skills. And most of the companies these days, the people that are successful are, they give a chance for risk takers. So, but at the same time, behind them, the leaders have to stay back and support them. First way you will be successful in volatility and uncertainty is you have to accept that I don't know. There is nothing wrong in it. Most of the times I tell my team, if they ask me, I don't know the answer today, but I'll get it. So when you see, you want to see good results, collect different ideas, synthesize them, and use a team that trusts each other. I think that's about it. I think we are left with probably 10 minutes or so. If you have any questions, I can.
If anybody have any question, they can unmute themselves and ask.
Sir, am I audible, sir? Am I?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Actually, I just wanted to ask, since you, I mean, your career spans across academia and corporate world and many other dimensions, was there any single factor which kept going you forward, like your desire to learn or something? Because you moved in a lot of uncertainty and still you managed to excel. So is there any factor in your psychology which enabled you to do it? I just wanted to know that.
I just took the opportunity that came my way. When I moved into SAP, SAP was at the end, like they were not at the prime when people were making a lot of money, but I caught the wave at the end. Similarly, when I came here, the job I never expected I'll get into Microsoft, I got it. All the ways. But the advantage I had is this. Most of the times my interviews happened with US folks. If you interview with mostly the Indian leaders, they look at job description, whether this person matches or not. Imagine somebody hiring me in a financial institute. Some of you must be in finance, right? There are 5 types of assets that people track in investment banking. I cannot name all the 5. Trust me on that. But still, I worked for an investment bank. That's what people see in you. That's what helped me to get there. And above and all, everywhere, the lead that I got is through my network. So when you get a lead from somebody, people give a chance.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir.
Oh, hello, sir. Good evening. I had a
Yes.
question. You informed us and talked about the importance of making connections. But with increasing number of connections, how are you supposed to keep all the connections strong and intact and maintain them over the period of time?
It takes a lot of effort, Yash. It takes a lot of effort. So actually, I'm glad you asked that question because I tell most of the time to my teams how I do it. Simple things go a long way. Suppose if I know your birthday and called you and wished you on a birthday or sent you a greeting, would you ever forget me, even if I call you after 10 years?
No, sir.
Those are the simple things, wedding anniversaries or their children's birthdays, these things. See, one thing even today I follow is I'm on Facebook, WhatsApp. These are the main mediums that I use for communication, LinkedIn, of course. So whenever I see in my connection some key people that I want to stay in touch, if I see their birthday or so, if they are in India, I pick up the phone and call them. I just don't wish them on the Facebook, but I pick up the phone and call them. If it is my classmates, we have a class group. All of us have class groups these days. You have the minute you say somebody's happy birthday, Yogesh, happy birthday, Jane, happy birthday. You keep on, and emojis, lot of emojis, and everything comes in. But I don't do that. I don't wish them there. Either I wish them personally on WhatsApp or I call them. So these are the small things, right, that go a long way. And if you are thinking outside that, I was working with a gentleman completely outside the academics and wherever I was working. He's a government guy. So he moved jobs. He was in CMD for a very big company, very big public sector. Then he got back into his parent organization on a promotion. So I did a very simple thing. It cost me less than 2,500. I sent him a nice card and a bunch of flowers. Guess what? If I call him today, he'll pick up my phone and answer. So simple things that you have to do.
Right, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, Ash.
So, as you were saying that you have been working in multiple industries and you didn't have, prior to joining, you didn't have some industry specific knowledge at times, but you were able to join through your basically your connections. But after joining the industry, how could you basically excel in that work? Like, what made you stand apart from your colleagues or something? So, what are the qualities or traits that you possess so that you would want the future managers to have?
That's a good question, Rishi. See, I today also, when I talk to my managers in my group, I tell them, do not stick to your vertical, what you are doing. To have a better this thing, you have to have a wider knowledge. People respect you for what you can bring to the table, not what you know. I'll talk about my State Street example. When I was hired in State Street, um, my boss was reporting to the CEO in Bangalore. And he went and argued with him that this guy will bring a lot of value, having worked for IBM and State Street, though he doesn't have the technology or whatever the domain knowledge that we need, he will build the team and sustain it. Guess what? When I joined, I had a team of about 10 people who are onboarding team, this new partner onboarding team. One day he called me and said there was an AVP that was managing a lot of operations things. And he said, hey, Suresh, I'm going to make this team also report to you. I said, sure. I sat with the team had about 70 people, and think of it as 7 teams because the function they do is completely different. So I sat with each team and told them, I accepted that I don't know. I don't know what you do, but I trust you do your job good. So I'll be backing you up wherever there is a problem, right? And that's what got me there. If they have a problem, there also I'll talk about another example. One time, there was this tough woman in UK who we were working with. She was giving a lot of grief for my team, saying that, why don't you have a laptop? Why can't you work from home? Blah, blah, blah stuff. So I told my team, they said, sir, last 2 times she beated me up on this one. I said, okay, we have a monthly cadence. Every month we have a report with them, talk about it. I told after the report, hey, I need to talk to you. Can you stay on for 5 minutes? I asked my team, you guys get out. So I started talking to her. I told her, look, you are in UK. Your expectation is that everybody will have a laptop at home, every individual. India is a country where if people have one laptop for the entire family, it's a great thing. And forget about an employee buying a laptop. If he has to buy a laptop, he has to shell out almost 1/3 of his annual salary. After I told all these things, she apologized and she never asked them. So the reason I'm telling you that is when you have the back of your employees like that, they do miracles for you. They do miracles for you. That's how I became successful. At the end, when I resigned and there was a all hands, my CEO spoke. I was waiting for him to come out. I saw him. I told him, Sri, I'm leaving. He said, yeah, I heard about it. Why don't you come and talk to me? So next day I went to meet with him. He spoke with me and he said, can I know where you are going? I said, sure, I cannot tell you right now, but it's something that I was doing, like what I was doing in Microsoft, so I'm going there. And at the end, after all the conversation we had, he shook my hand and said, Suresh, if it doesn't work there for you, call me back. I'll take you. And that's the kind of impression you leave behind. Because I built the team from 10 people to 100 people and took care of them extremely well. Business was not suffering. That's all they care. As long as they know business is not suffering and he doesn't have any complaints about me from any of I was working with 3-4 VPs in US, 3 in UK, and 2 in Australia. So totally different continents and different things. As long as they don't hear any complaint from any angle, we are good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rishi.
As we have already approached our promised time, so we can move towards formally wrap up the session. So,
sure. If anybody has one last question, don't mind, Abhishek.
yeah, sure, sir. If anybody has any question, you can ask.
Sir,
Yes.
I would like to ask a follow-up question. So, while switching through all these industries, from service to product, and then banking, and then semiconductor, like which one would you say that you enjoyed the most most while
State Street,
working?
hands down, State Street. I loved working there. It was 20 months. I never expected I'll create such an impact on the kind of farewell that they gave me. It's still, I'm in touch with most of them, my team. I still help them with my connections to move jobs internally. They reach out to me, and the best team I worked with is thumbs down, State Street.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're most welcome, Manakshi. Any other last question, or we can wrap up?
Sir, I just wanted one small question. So I just wanted some tips on how you manage conflict within a team, sir. What are the strategies you use to manage conflict within any team which are building?
So conflict management, Hardeep, is a very different subject. Every situation will be different. And first of all, you have to not take sides with anybody. You have to go by facts. Typically, conflict management, it's resolved between two, if it is two individuals, they resolve it between themselves by talking to each other. That's the best thing. If it comes to you, you have to play a coach, not a manager. You have to let them realize, let them make talk. See, coaching and mentoring is nothing but making a person discover their strength. It's not about preaching them, you do this, you do that. You don't give them solutions. You make them find solutions with their asking clarifying questions, one after the other, one after the other. So that's what you have to do. And can you resolve every conflict? I don't think so. Sometimes it takes time. It's not going to happen immediately. As much as I am telling you that it's that easy subject, I still have some of the people, I don't call it as a conflict, but it's tough to work with them. But I still make it happen. All you have to do is very professional, talk about what makes relevance for the business. You should be okay.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for the answers.
Abhishek, can I wrap up with a couple of words?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Sure. Hey, I know there are about 20, 25 people, but it's a great pleasure talking to you guys. It's wonderful opportunity to give back whatever I can to Roorkee. This is my first, but it's not going to be my last. Any of you, I put my email and phone number, and I'm on LinkedIn, you know my LinkedIn profile. So if you need any help, don't expect, I'll try my best. That's a promise, but don't expect miracles to happen. So thanks for the opportunity, and it's very, very warm feeling to talk to young future generation. So it's a great privilege for me. All of you are pretty much my kids' age, and I wish you all the best in your careers. I just saw a few glimpses of AVPs, VPs, and all those people, but I'm pretty sure some of you after 20 years will be even in a much, much better positions talking to the same kind of youngsters at that time. Wish you all the best.
Sir, please allow me to give formal vote of thanks before we
Sure.
wrap up the session.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. So, I would like to express gratitude to Mr. Suresh Perugu, sir, on behalf of DOMS IIT Roorkee. Thank you so much for sharing your life stories with us. The session was very inspirational for the budding corporate leaders here. Your insights about leadership, teamwork, integrity, importance of writing skills, and VUCA are of great value to us. Thank you again, sir, for keeping the session interactive and answering our questions. I am sure the students will remember these teachings and these learnings would help them lifelong. In your honor, we will continue the legacy of Avenir For this year, we have decided to take the initiative to support the children suffering from speech and hearing impairment, and thus breaking the silence. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time and extending the session for us.
Abhishek, I just realized Meenakshi is the one that contacted me on the LinkedIn. I was looking for that. Who is the other person? I was not sure. Mayur reached out to me. Thanks, Meenakshi, for reaching out. It's a very, very happy thing that I'm doing. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you,
We
sir.
are
Thank
very
you so
grateful
much.
to have you.
Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
sir.
Have
Bye,
a good
sir.
day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.